Hello, everyone. I just thought it would be a good idea now that we've started to get some MCU news. We are going to talk about Thunderbolts and Inhumans today. This video is going to be for the Inhumans. Um, they've gotten a few mentions in the MCU, but as a team, casual fans don't really know or understand who they are. So here we go. The comics center around the Inhuman royal family. This title is shortened to the Inhumans. They first appeared in Fantastic Four number 45 in 1965. Individual members of the family had made earlier appearances, but the Fantastic Four issue was the first time that they appeared as a team. If you are an MCU fan, you might remember Black Bolt from Multiverse of Madness. Well, he was the leader of the original Inhumans team. In fact, he was their king. What makes the Inhumans different as a team is though they are superpowered, they're not strictly supernatural. So like it's not magic or whatever. They have generally speaking a singular enhanced human ability, aka Inhuman. The Inhumans served as a backup feature in Thor number 146 in 1967 and issue number 152 in 1968. Their first ongoing story was 6 issues long, and it was written and penciled by the Jack Kirby. Their own self titled series started in 1975 and ran for 12 issues. The follow up to the ending of their series appeared in Captain Marvel number 53 in 1977. And after that, the Inhumans were kind of really absent from the pages of Marvel for most of the 80s until they got their own graphic novel in 1988. This graphic novel was written by I'm going to butcher this name. Nocenti. Nocenti. Was written by Ann Nocenti, who loved the team so much that she followed up by putting members Karnak and Gorgon in Daredevil from issues 272 to 283. We then have another 10 years or so of dead time before the team really appears again. And when they do, it's in a limited series written by Paul Jenkins and Jay Lee that ran for 12 issues from 98 to 99. Now, if you want to start reading Inhumans stories, this is the place to start. This story uses the Inhumans as an allegory for the US, and there is a reason that it won an Eisner Award. This is definitely one of the best uses of the team. Not only did this limited series win a prestigious award, but it also changed the course of the team in comic books. Until this point, the team's appearances had been sporadic at best, and there were giant gaps in appearances. But after 99, the team really started having consistent appearances, getting another limited series of 4 issues in 2000 and a 12-issue volume in 2004. They've had many limited series over, they had about, oh God, I want to say 8 to 10 limited series over the next couple of years, with the last being in 2018. And we really haven't seen much of them since. So, do you remember when we talked about Eternals and the Celestials? Okay, do you remember how I said at the beginning of time the Kree started experimenting on the early human race using the celestial energy that was in planets, essentially? Well, guess what? Those experiments became the Inhumans. Took the Cave Boy was the first Inhuman. The Inhumans then went on to create a society of their own. They thrived in seclusion and developed their own very advanced technology. This advanced technology led to experiments with the Terrigen Mists, giving them various powers, but it had a major drawback. These experiments led to genetic damage and deformities. All of this basically led to inhuman eugenics, where they selectively bred in order to mitigate these side effects. Now, this genetic screening worked, but occasionally there were instances where if the inhuman was exposed to the Terrigen Mist for too long, or their genetics couldn't handle it, they would devolve um, the inhuman into being more evolutionarily primitive. These Inhumans became outcasts and eventually a slave race for the more evolved Inhumans. You see why this is so good? It deals with a caste system, and the stories lean really heavily into that. This caste system is integral to the Inhuman storylines. The primitive subclass has tried to overthrow the other Inhumans several times, but to no avail. It's a very conformist society where the only individual distinction is your power, your genetic mutation. So for every single one of these characters, their power is who they are, it is their identity. And once you are assigned a spot in this caste system, there's no escaping your place. You are where you are. Now, Black Bolt, King of the Inhumans, but this title started to mean more or less depending on the storyline. For example, when Medusa and Black Bolt had a child against the orders of the Genetic Council, their child was taken from them and they decided to leave for Earth. This was, of course, temporary, and the council ended up using their child to entice Black Bolt into returning home. And when he did, he relinquished his crown. From then on, the main Inhumans team really only returned home in times of great need. Um, Other than that, they were pretty much Earthside, helping the Avengers and the Fantastic Four in various storylines. The next radical change that really affected the Inhuman society was when Ronan the Accuser came to their home and essentially threatened to destroy their home and everyone in it if they did not agree to help him in disrupting the Shi'ar's control, as they had won the war against the Kree. Now, this storyline reveals in fiction to the Inhumans that the Inhumans were always meant to serve the Kree. This conflict came to a head when Black Bolt challenged Ronan to a one-on-one battle for the freedom of his people. The battle was brutal, and Black Bolt won, forcing Ronan to leave. However, spending so long as slaves and having repeated conflict with the outside world has caused a lot of turmoil among the Inhumans, and as such, they didn't feel like Black Bolt and the royal family were fit to lead anymore. And so the royal family was exiled from Inhuman society. Another major storyline for the Inhumans was the Son of M storyline. Quicksilver stole Terrigen crystals in an attempt to cure all the depowered mutants from M Day. A lot of interwoven things happening here. This led to an obvious conflict that culminated in Black Bolt declaring war on the US. Yeah, read it. It's awesome. Um, Inhumanity and the Inhumans versus the X-Men were probably the storylines that give the team the most, I want to say, depth and exploration. Death of the Inhumans is the most heavy. Now, I highly recommend the book, but the Inhumans have always been a team where writers have kind of explored the darker side of comics. You can liken them to a lot of DC comics. They explore some social commentary, but Death of the Inhumans is not a for beginners style storyline, only because of the emotional weight of what happens to the Inhumans. So I would say once you have a basic idea of who the characters are and who you like, and once you have someone that you're rooting for, then go for it. But I feel like you'll be missing a lot of the emotional weight and connection if you aren't attached to the team or to any of the individual characters. So make that like the third or fourth Inhumans book you read. Um, the slave race we mentioned was deemed alpha primitives, and they have bird people who were offshoot of the Inhumans just with bird wings. And then we have the super Inhumans that were a sub race designed specifically by the Kree to combat the regular Inhumans. Now, I haven't seen Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I'm willing to bet that the adaptation was thin at best. Um, but I will watch that and get back to you guys. That is been on the list for like a while. Um, but yeah, that is who the Inhumans are. If you like darker, grittier storylines, then they are definitely the team for you to read. Um, and yeah, so thanks for coming on my history of the Inhumans journey with me. The Thunderbolts is going to be up very, very soon.